Hello, my name is Trevor. I'm a senior in the college studying government with minors in African American Studies and Sociology. Today, I'm presenting my government honors thesis entitled Leading the Way Inside, an analysis of the legislative style of the LGBTQ representatives of the United States Congress. Essentially, this thesis answers the question, do LGBTQ representatives legislate differently than non-LGBTQ representatives? In other words, does identity matter? What's exciting about this research is that it's uncovered original findings in a topic area that has little previous research. I was able to conduct interviews with members of Congress, analyze census data, perform content analysis on social media posts, listen to bill markups and floor speeches, in addition to a wide range of sources, mixing both qualitative and quantitative methodologies. So, what did I find? Well, starting off with what's already known, the LGBTQ population in the United States is anywhere from 4 to 8%. Yet only 0.16% of elected officials identify as LGBTQ. There's currently 806 openly LGBTQ officials. We would need around 22,000 more officials from the local to the national level to have proportional representation. Yet does this gap in representation matter? Previous research on the axes of race, gender, and class seem to indicate that there is a link between descriptive representation, who a representative is, and substantive representation, what they focus on and champion. There have been a few studies on the role of LGBTQ identity, though these have mostly focused on the state level and have been before 2018, in which we saw what was called the Rainbow Wave, with the largest election of LGBTQ officials in history, seeing 8 LGBTQ representatives elected to the House and 2 to the Senate. Thus, this thesis fills several gaps in the literature, both time-wise and content-wise. It also disaggregates the data and looks at the differences between individual representatives. Additionally, for the first time, it looks through over 1.1 million tweets and thousands of Facebook and Instagram posts to analyze how LGBTQ representatives discuss their identity through social media. Structurally, this thesis is split into 3 main areas of focus. First, the districts which have elected LGBTQ officials. 2, their formal legislative activity within the chamber. And 3, the way in which they interact with their constituents. Starting off with the district level. The congressional districts which have elected LGBTQ representatives are statistically significant in having lower poverty rates, lower Black, Native, and Asian American populations, higher rates of internet access, and were more politically moderate and more rural and less urban than the average Democratic district. So these districts were not the super liberal, highly educated coastal urban centers like popular culture believes. In fact, the 4 freshman LGBTQ representatives were all from Republican or toss-up districts in places like Kansas and Minnesota. Next, I looked at the formal legislative activity of these members within the chamber. LGBTQ representatives co-sponsor LGBTQ legislation at double the rate of the average Democrat and 3 times the rate of Democrats from similar districts. Though they comprise only 2% of the chamber, they sponsor almost a fifth of all LGBTQ legislation. Moreover, LGBTQ representatives coordinate via the Equality Caucus to letter write, win support, build coalitions, and influence their fellow Democrats and those throughout various levels of government through interpersonal interactions and formal activities. Additionally, LGBTQ representatives often use first-person language in committee and other areas when discussing LGBTQ issues. Overall, their presence brings both the strength of advocacy and an early and increased interest focus on LGBTQ issues in ways not seen by even the most ardent of allies. Lastly, I looked at how these representatives interact with the public. Do they downplay or highlight their identity when communicating with constituents? LGBTQ representatives tweeted about LGBTQ issues at 3 times the rate of the average Democrat and 5 times the rate of Democrats from similar districts. These tweets often included first-person language. On Instagram, LGBTQ representatives had 2 times the proportion of LGBTQ content as Democrats from similar districts. On Facebook, LGBTQ representatives had 3 times the number of Facebook posts about LGBTQ issues. LGBTQ representatives also didn't shy away from their identity in various other forms of media such as print, interviews, and television. In essence, they embraced their LGBTQ identity, becoming both symbols and surrogates for a wider LGBTQ community. So overall, this thesis found that there is indeed a link between LGBTQ identity and increased rates of championship for LGBTQ issues. This research holds several implications. First, LGBTQ advocacy organizations should continue making the election of LGBTQ officials a strategic goal. Second, LGBTQ representatives are increasingly viable in various district types, and therefore this identity should not be seen as a political risk to mainstream parties to run these candidates in competitive districts. And lastly, we must not put all of our eggs in one basket nor essentialize LGBTQ officials. It is simply one tool in a wider array of strategies to foment social change, as activists and organizers push from the outside, and LGBTQ representatives, as they have in the past, and hopefully will continue to do so into the future, lead the way inside for a more just and equal society. Thank you.